Almost 4 years ago, a group of buffoons met on Reddit and decided to record a podcast. These morons promptly became friends and escaped to the vast internet. Today, still trying to better themselves, they survive as podcasters with a Patreon. If you like Transformers, if you have ears, and if you can make it past this intro, maybe you can listen to Transmissions.
Declassified, motherfucker.
Hello and welcome to Transmissions Declassified. This is the show that takes a deep dive into the topics that surround Transformers and Transformers fandom. My name is Daryl and I am one of the hosts of Transmissions. I have with me Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hello.
And Yoshi.
Yo.
That sounded painful.
I'm sick. I'm fighting a sore throat, but I'm here. And Charles, who's not sick, decided not to show up.
That guy can't even be bothered to show up for work.
Look, I love the man. He sings me lullabies every night. I couldn't get to sleep without him. But this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm in physical pain, and I'm here.
Yeah, and there's a nice note from DJ Ronan in the Discord chat. We'll just take one of your yodels from another episode and replace it.
Let me try again. Let me see if I can do it. Hang on. Yo!
Oh, that sounded like it hurt too.
Yeah.
Slightly better.
It's all raw here, guys.
On this episode, we have decided to make this available for everybody as a small treat because it's convention season. And we thought, what better thing to do while you're waiting in line at a convention to see your favorite artist or actor or some celebrity that you've been waiting forever, or waiting in line to get into the damn convention,
or waiting in line to talk to your favorite podcasters.
Oh, of course, that happens all the time. But to make a podcast about convention prep. It's been a while since we've actually discussed it on this show. And we thought, you know what? We're going to actually do a bit of a deep dive into conventions and the prep that goes into them. Not necessarily from the standpoint of selling at them, because we did a declassified on that already. For all those who are our Patreons, you can access that on our Patreon page. But we're going to do it from the standpoint of the fans, because we're all fans. That's how we got into this. And we've all been to a lot of conventions. And if you want to go to a con properly, it requires a significant amount of prep. So for this podcast, we're just going to talk about what we all have done in the past and what we expect to do in the future to prepare for the con properly. Now, the cons that we generally go to are Transformers centric, and a lot of us do go to, I guess, comic book ones. Yoshi, you go to ECCC, Emerald City Comic Con, and then that's a pretty big show, right?
Oh yeah. And you can call it a comic convention, which is in the name, but it's grown into a pop culture convention.
Right.
Most of the big ones have now.
Yeah, and it's definitely on that path. While they definitely are also putting up a fight to keep the comic book aspect of it strong. But it's become more of a pop culture event.
Yeah. And I would have to agree with that. Because I do get the opportunity to go to Fan Expo here in Ontario, in Toronto every year, and that's Canada's biggest comic book convention, and also has now become a pop culture convention. And I have to say they've done a very good job at keeping that a comic book convention in the sense that if you're in the main hall, if you want to find a comic book, you can find a comic book in that area. If you go to the spot where the celebrities are, you're not going to find any comic books in there. Maybe a very rare table will have a few, but it's hard. If you want to find a pop figure, man, they're there.
They're like tribbles.
Yeah,
they're like fucking Beanie Babies. Like
I don't understand it, and I've been waiting for its inevitable death for the past 3 or 4 years. But I understand the collectability of it, but it seems to be just growing exponentially, and I don't know how it's sustainable. But
so when future, in like 5 years, when we're referencing this episode and we weren't supposed to talk about something that would date it, I apologize now, Daryl.
No, pops are pops are something that are culturally relevant, so it's perfectly fine. But let's get into our prep now. I'm going to start because I think I'm a little nutty when I go to a convention, and we make fun of it, and I make fun of myself as to what I go through in my convention prep. In an average year, I'll go to 5 conventions a year. One being TFCon, one being Fan Expo, and then 2 or 3 others that will be local and smaller conventions around the area to just kind of fill out the year. But I will go specifically for the comic book artists that are appearing. I don't give a shit who else is going to be there. If there is an artist there that I have never met before and I'm a fan of their work, I will go to that convention. Very popular ones have been Niagara Falls Comic-Con that's in the area. They have been very good at getting some 90s, some 80s artists that generally don't do a lot of conventions. So they've been pulling them out of obscurity, and it's been very cool to meet them. But when I go through my convention prep, I find out I get the entire guest list, including the celebrities, which I don't give a shit about. But I will pull every single book of that artist that I have, and I will go through them, and I will then start eliminating one by one books that I don't care. Either the book is tattered and I cannot foreseeably pay money for somebody to sign this ragged piece of paper that I have, or it's in decent condition. I like the image that's on the cover, and that the artist actually supplied enough, content to it, because sometimes they'll do like a backup to the backup story kind of thing. Like they barely were in it, or their art was referenced in the previously in, whatever. So if they did that art, then I don't give a shit. I won't have them sign that. But I will pull everything, and then I'll eliminate, and I'll be left with X number of books, and I will do that for every convention. As I sit here right now recording this show, I'm surrounded by piles of comics as I prepare for this year's TFCon. It's an annual ritual. I do it, and it hurts my brain, but the end result it makes me happy. And I do know that it can annoy other people, and I am aware of that, but we can get into that later. But that generally is the majority of my convention prep. Yoshi, I know you go to a lot, probably the second most amount of conventions in the from our podcast, one after me. What is your convention prep look like?
Okay, it's so my big thing are sketch covers or blank covers. Since we've started doing the podcast, I've just gotten really into the art side of things, and I have a gnarly spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet, containing a list of all the books I have and then all the comic books I have, blank or otherwise. And I actually have a column where I make note if I really, really found the artist to be impressive. I'll document their name and whatnot. So when a convention comes around, like when Emerald City comes around, for example, I literally then just cross-reference who's there based on the art I've seen that I've documented the artist on that I would like to get a commission from, and I'll cross-reference that. Now, last year when I did this, I had no matches. Nobody there was anybody I was actively hoping would attend, which is how I met Genevieve Broomall. And if you remember, she did the Skids sketch cover for me with
yes, I remember that one.
That's quite a cover. And so what happened was when I had no matches on my spreadsheet, I just started literally looking up every artist, because this is how you discover new artists and new talent and new art styles. And I just went through this whole list, and she was one of them that stuck out to me. And so when I got there, I just actively went after her to see if she had time to do a commission for me, and she did. That's probably 90% of what I do. Now, Emerald City, for whatever reason, seems to be very consistent in, especially the last 2 years, in making sure that Transformers artists are there. So she wasn't the only commission I got. The next thing I focus on are maybe a handful of books, and by books I mean expensive books I'm looking for, and try to seek out a deal on those. Now, I'm not the richest person in the room. I don't think I spend nearly as much as Daryl does at conventions. So I'm doing a little more haggling or going from comic book booth to comic book booth to try and find the best deal on a vintage book that I'm looking for that's worth $100 or $200.
You'd be surprised about how much I spend, because artists and creators' signatures are generally free. It's just the bigger names that charge. So
right.
I can spend an entire day at Fan Expo and spend less than $50.
Yeah.
Because I'll spend my entire day just waiting in lines.
Yeah. That's something else we should talk about, or but time budgeting for these things.
Of course. Yeah.
But so that's it. When I went to the Transformers convention in DC, it was 3 sketch covers that I had organized to have worked on before the convention started. And I wanted the gift set instruction booklet for Devastator. And, I walked in the door, and inside of 10 minutes, my mission was complete. So
you went home.
I didn't go home. I focused all my energies on videotaping stuff so we could have a really good convention video. And honestly, I really do love doing that. Like, I really feel like I got my money's worth out of my convention ticket, because I'm talking to fans, I'm interviewing creators, and at the end of the day, we've all got something to show for that. And it was so much fun. And that's just where my time goes. Like, I really try to get everything. You can't work out the instruction booklet ahead of time, but as far as commissions, like, generally I can get that all figured out and ready for me by the time I get there. So my convention time is pretty much find the instruction booklet and then start recording. So that's what I do. I cross-reference from an Excel sheet I have, and then I just look at who all else is attending, because my primary thing is sketch covers.
And Jeremy, your convention prep, sir?
It involves getting together a lot of computers and microphones and recording equipment. And I mean, that's been the last couple of years, just getting like a lot of the back end stuff that the podcast needs, but general recording or general convention stuff. I initially, like, after we had the podcast and I started going to TF Cons with you guys, I tried to emulate Daryl a little bit in getting every single comic signed. and I've backed away from that now. If there are specific covers that I have that are just ones that I love or particular storylines, I will bring those to get them signed. But for the most part, I'm looking for mainly either setting up a few commissions, like at a recent one, I had Nick Roach. I commissioned him to do a bust of Autobot Megatron. So I would, have those set up ahead of time. And then just, I'll bring a few blank sketch covers with me just on the offhand. I could use them. And then I'm just looking for prints and things that the artist will bring to buy from them. And like, I did luck out, like when Bob Budiansky was at the TFCon Chicago, he was doing sketch covers and it wasn't something you could set up ahead of time. And, I just lucked out. Like Yoshi told me about this. The price was really reasonable. So I lucked out and I got a sketch from him. Unfortunately, I don't think Yoshi's still got his.
Yeah, we should talk about that for just a second, because I approached Budiansky like I would approach someone ahead of a convention. Like, you've got a little extra time to work on this. I'm willing to pay for it, but this is the detail I'm looking for. And, he's supposedly still working on it in his spare time, and I'll eventually get it. I've got no reason to not believe him, but it's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Whereas you were like, I just want this awesome figure. And
yeah. I mean, I asked for a picture of Scrounge. I mean, there's no background on it. It's just Scrounge, and he was able to do it within the weekend. So manage your expectations. If you're asking an artist for something with a ton of detail, that takes time. And especially if there's someone, busy, their day job or, the books that they're paid to work on come first. So,
yeah, it's true.
Toys are generally kind of an afterthought now for me. I mean, just in terms of storage space, I found that art is a lot easier to store and to display. I might pick up a toy or two, particularly like smaller figures. But I think when I got the Transformers Tycho train set, that was probably one of my last big, massive toy purchases. And that thing is just immense in terms of the size or the amount of space it takes up.
You don't keep that like out.
I still haven't even assembled it. I have no place that is big enough to put it. So that's going to be a project.
Keeping on the art for a minute, I just wanted to touch on a little bit outside of not on sketch covers, but on original art that artists or creators might bring to the conventions. If you're a fan of original art, sometimes artists won't keep original art on the table for fear of it getting stolen or wrecked. Like, people will just blatantly just drop down a drink that they've been carrying around, and just to talk to them because they want to put a book down to get signed, and it'll get spilled over top of a binder full of thousands of dollars worth of original art. So they won't keep it on a table. But if you're looking for original art, just ask them. If you walk up to a table and you say, hey, I really love your artwork, can you sign this book for me? Oh, by chance, did you bring any art to sell, like original art? They might have it underneath the table or behind their chair, because it's quite valuable. Yeah. And so, and sometimes you'll see that an artist has just brought some to just blow out because they don't want it around. It does
take up space.
Because it might be just sheets of paper, but when you're a professional artist, it's piles and piles and piles of paper. in your, studio. So, I mean, I remember years ago, I was at Fan Expo and just happened upon, what's his name? I can't remember now, but he was doing, Wolverine at the time. But I was like, okay, this guy's cool. I've got a couple Wolverine books, and um, and I see this little tray sitting next to him with all these different colored tabs on it, and like the purple tabs were 40, the yellow tabs were 50, the whatever, and it kept going up, and I'm like, what is this? And a couple people were looking through it. Not many people were looking at it though, and I say, what is that over there? And he says, oh, it's just a little bit of original art that I brought that I'm just trying to get rid of. And I said, what? And it's like $40. And I went through it, and I ended up buying a piece, and it was just a little bit of stuff that he just didn't want to have to keep, bringing around or have to look at anymore. And he's just like, you know what? I'm going to take it to this convention. I'm going to blow it out and get rid of it because I didn't want it anymore. So yeah. And artists still will do that. Mm-hmm. So, be on the lookout for really good deals like that. You can find them.
I think a subtopic to this, Daryl, is if your intent is to get some original art, have a means of transporting it after you've purchased it, because it's not your standard 8x11 piece of paper.
Well, that's true, but a lot of times you'll like when I found this art at the convention, I was not planning on buying art. I stumbled into this, and the guy had a piece of original art for $40. And I said, oh shit, that's awesome. I'm going to buy that. And it was small. It wasn't huge. I ended up putting it in one of the top loaders that I had on me for a comic. So it was protected until I got home, but it was small enough to fit in that. But yeah, so if you're most original art is on 8 or 11 by 17 piece of paper, which is massive. So if you're going to buy something like that, it's not easy if you've got the rest of the day to, at a convention to lug this thing around.
It might be worth looking. I know my comic shop actually carries 11 by 17 top loaders, and it might be worth bringing a couple. Just, if you're thinking of getting some original art, just have something on hand. So when you buy it, you can put it in something so it won't get bent or whatever, in your bag or just throughout the weekend.
Now, some of the larger conventions, like Emerald City, they have a couple of booths throughout the convention that just sells top loaders or portfolios or what have you in various sizes to collect the various pieces of art you're going to buy. A lot of the smaller conventions don't stuff like do that, though.
No. But yeah, there's a means to do it. If you can find that stuff, if you're looking to spend that money on that, you can do it. And then when you get home, you can frame it up. You can do whatever you want to it.
Yeah, I have an Alex Milne page that I bought framed on the wall, and that's the type of thing I also look for now, because it's something that might not mean a lot to the artist because it was just work. I mean, they're proud of it, but it, as on the fan side, it probably means a lot more to us, and especially to have that connection to the artist and the whatever the property was the book is about.
Moving on, try and imagine what you look like to the people around you. Okay, so this has been something that I've struggled with for a while, because I know that I bring more than my fair share of books to conventions to get signed. I'm not the worst. I have seen people bring full-on short boxes of books to conventions and little carts to drag them around in. I am not the worst, but I know what I look like, so I have gone to the extent to prepare myself to be as easy as possible for the artists or the writers or any other of the creators when I get to their booths. When you walk up to the booth to get something signed, the artist is ready to go. they are ready to sign. Make sure that your stuff is unbagged and ready to be signed. Usually they'll sign it in a Sharpie, and that can take 5 to 10 seconds to dry.
I would make sure you also bring Sharpies as well, just
sure,
to make sure.
Yeah,
there might be a particular color that you would prefer.
And they generally will be ready with what they and you know what, sometimes there are books that they've seen so many times that they know what color to sign with looks best on that. What I would suggest is, if you've got a good number of books, have them all out of the bags and ready to get signed. And then once you're done, step to the side, rebag them if that's what you need to do right then and there. Go ahead. If you've got time, move completely away from the table and rebag them. Just get out of the way. Because there's probably, if there's somebody standing in line behind you, then that's the best thing to do. If not, and you've got time and you want to chat with the person, go ahead. If they're a chatty person, sometimes there are some really chatty creators out there, and they'll take the opportunity to chat you up, and that's great. And then you've got perfect amount of time to chat and rebag your stuff, and then you can get the hell out of there when the next person walks up, or whenever they want to get back to work, or you got to leave or whatever. But have a perception of what you look like. So when I walk up, and let's say I've got 20 books on me, and there's a line, I might only get 5 of them signed, and then I'll leave and I'll go and do something else and get some more books signed, and I'll come back later for another 5. I won't drop 20 books on this guy at one time. That's ridiculous. It's rude, right? If I don't get that 20 books signed, that's on me. It's not their fault that they're busy. That's on me. I pick the first 5 that I would pick to get signed, and that's it. If I don't get the rest signed, I don't care. It's not a big problem to me.
They're not obligated to do it.
They're not, no. And if they have a sign up, a lot of artists are starting to charge for signatures. That's fine. So if they have a sign up and they want to charge for their signatures, respect that. Know that sometimes they will allow you. I was in line for J. Scott Campbell one point. He allowed 1 free signature, and it was $10 per signature after that. I had 5 books. I paid $40. He was saying he was telling people to grab other people out of the audience, like from the crowd, and just to grab them and say, "Would you get my book signed for me?" Like, this was him telling him to cheat your own system. Like, I didn't have anybody around me. I was there by myself, and I was so shy. I'm like, "Hey, you in the Deadpool costume," because there's always one. There's always a Deadpool around. Come over here and get my Campbell signature for me. But yeah, no, I just paid the $40 and got my 5 signatures. But he's a really good guy too. Like, just, you respect their system, and don't try and cheat them.
And another thing, if you are bringing a lot of books and you're hoping to have them signed, offer maybe to go and get them a coffee or something, since they aren't able to leave the table a lot. And when they do, that's potentially missing out on sales if someone comes by and they're not there. So, offer to, get them a drink, and, just see if there's anything that they need. Try to help them out. And I'm sure that would go a long way to making them feel better about your huge stack of books that you brought.
Yeah. So, that's just how I tend to look at it. And, I do tease myself, and I catch a lot of heat for bringing a lot of books, but I think I do it properly, where I realize the situation. I realize what's going on. I read the room, and if it's the line starting to back up behind me, then I get my ass out of there and I come back around later. So, it's I haven't had anybody in a line yell at me yet. So I think that's a good sign.
At least anybody outside of the podcast giving you a hard time.
That's right. And I expect you.
If we're behind you,
I count on it. You guys would yell at me if I had one book. Oh, Jesus, Daryl with a book. Of course. All right. Well, let's move on from book signing to.
Wait a second. Let me get my thought out here real quick, because we got to hear your side. Yeah. But we go to these conventions, and just to keep this Transformer centric for a second, I don't think anybody balks at spending a few $100s to get Peter Cullen's signature or a few $100s to get Frank Welker's signature. But you bring 10 books that you want somebody to sign, and you're going to do a handful at a time and get back in line and do a handful more. If I was the type of person who had a whole run of books I wanted signed by one person, I just can't fathom myself ever. But if I was, I'd be more than happy to do just a couple at a time so that the line keeps going. I would want all of them signed. But at the same token, I would also say what I just said. Like, dude, I just spent $300 to get Peter Cullen's signature. Like, I can give you $40 to sign my books. I know that you're doing them for free, but I've got a majority books here than anybody else in line. Like, if you're going to sign them, let me pay. Like, I think the perception is if you're getting more than one book or more than two books signed, you're a flipper. And I don't think you are, Daryl. From all I understand, this is part of the hobby for you. You love collecting signatures, and so you want everything you have signed. But to everybody else, you come off as a flipper, and not that there's anything wrong with that, and not that maybe even the artist would say anything as he's signing your 25th book. But I guess for me, it would be like, no, you're taking time out of. I'm taking time out of everybody in line here for you to sign my 26 books. I'm paying you for this, even though we aren't asking for money. Like, you're doing me a solid by going above and beyond signing more than one book here. I don't care if you're doing them for free or not. Okay.
Right. So let me address that. I definitely appreciate you not thinking I'm a flipper, because I am definitely not. I have 5 short boxes next to me that are all the books that I've had signed. I really enjoy going up and meeting the artists and the writers and all the other creators, because it's just another part of the hobby for me. I really enjoy collecting the signatures. I've talked about it maybe once on the podcast before, but a person's signature for me is a window to their soul. And I find everyone's signature different because every person is different. So I like to collect the signatures of the people that create the book as a little stamp on the book from the person that made it. Because you can go into the comic book store and pick the book up, and it's the same book that I buy here in London that you buy in Seattle, or Jeremy gets in Wisconsin, and Charles gets in Pittsburgh, that the guys in the UK get, or the people in Australia will pick up. It's the same fucking book, right? But I'm going to the conventions and I'm getting stamps put on it by the people who made it, and it makes mine different, and I like that. And it's a personal stamp from them. So that's for me, and just in my head, I really like it.
Right, but you see the perspective of the artist. Like, if you brought in, issue 300 of Amazing Spider-Man to Todd McFarlane, and he signed it, the immediate thought of him and everyone around you is you either really loved the book, or you loved the story, or you loved both, and you are showing that by you know, hey dude, would you sign my book? I really love your work. This means a lot to me. Boom. And you walk out of there. Like that's how everyone in the room perceives you. You come in with a short box and you take out a handful to get them signed. Your perception is flipper.
Of course. Yes.
I mean, I know you, I've known you long enough. Like I get it. You love signatures, you collect them, you do all of that. It's just, it's abnormal to be that way and not the other way.
Last year at Fan Expo, there was a few artists there. There was Ed McGuinness and Mark Millar there. Mark Millar is a really, really talented artist. He did the original Civil War series for Marvel, and he did the Old Man Logan, the original Old Man Logan series. He's a very talented artist, and he's definitely in my top 3 artists. And I was really excited to meet him, and both him and McGuinness were charging for their signatures, and I'm like, all right, shit, this is gonna really kill my budget, because they were both charging $10 a signature. And I'm like, fuck and hell, how am I going to afford this? Because I had both, like, the Old Man Logan series, I brought the entire thing. It's 7 books. I'm like, fucking hell. So anyway, I go up and talk to Millar, and he's like, yeah, it's $10 a signature, or I'll sign it for free if I can put your name on it. And I'm like, go ahead.
See,
these are my books.
Taking that perspective that you're a flipper. Yeah.
And I said, dude, these are my books. These are my collection. I love this book. Go ahead. Write my name all over it. And same thing with McGuinness. He did the exact same thing. He said, yeah, it's $10, but it's, if I put your name on it, it's free. I said, that's fine. You guys want to do that? These are not going anywhere. They're all mine.
Right.
So yeah, I totally get the flipper angle, the CGC tax, as they're calling it. But yeah, I get the image. It's just, it's not my intention. So yeah, but no, I'd like to move on if that's okay. Unless you got more, Yoshi.
No, you're good.
Okay. So we all have to clothe ourselves. We all have to, bring normal everyday stuff to these conventions, like not just comic books and shit toys and stuff. How do you, Jeremy, I'll start with you. How do you get prepped for just the weekend itself?
In terms of clothes, I probably bring at least an extra day's worth of clothes, just in case something happens. Well, I mean, you need to make sure you have good shoes because you're going to be doing a lot of walking. And I generally will bring some snacks in my backpack, like granola bars, stuff like that, because who knows when you're going to get caught up and completely miss lunch. Mm-hmm. Some of the conventions are good about having water and stuff around. I know TFCon has done that in the past. They're pretty good about having water pretty freely available. But I also like to have at least a bottle of water on me that I can refill. So yeah, that's my main stuff. I generally will carry my backpack around with me. So I just, have plenty of places to store stuff. And mm-hmm. I think, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm pretty low key. I'm not a cosplayer, so I don't have to worry about any of the stuff. Like, I'm sure there are tools that need to be brought for that and the costume itself and everything. I worry about myself and my recording equipment.
All right. And Yoshi, do you do anything differently?
I have a ongoing checklist that I just reference every time I go to a convention. I usually take 2 bags, a carry-on and my book bag, whether I'm going to Emerald City or I'm going to an out-of-state convention. And so my book bag will contain my computer, my audio gear, tripods, memory disks, battery backups, all the tech, and it will hold my my comic books that I'm bringing, or the cases I use to bring them back. I do have two hard black comic folio cases so that the books won't get fucked up in transit. And then my other bag generally is clothes and coffee, because I know you guys like your coffee when I bring it to you. Now, one of the things that makes these trips for me less stressful is by having, I have things budgeted out just to try not to go over budget, but I also have an emergency budget. True story. Last year, when I went to Emerald City, I got there and came home from the first night, and I'm going through my shit. I had it on my checklist. I had it checked on my checklist, but somehow my underwear did not end up in my bag. We all know that walking around these conventions is a sweaty ordeal. Mm-hmm. So thankfully, I mean, I didn't have to stress about it. I had an emergency budget. I went down. I discovered the magic of boxer briefs. I will never go back again. These things are the shit. And I am a changed man. It was one of the best things to happen to me, was to forget my underwear at a convention, because I've discovered the magic of boxer briefs. So budgeting definitely is part of the pre-packing plan. And if you got the money set aside, it really helps in the stress and not having to worry about fuck all. Mm-hmm. What about you, Daryl? How do you prep for these things?
Well, I do a lot similarly to Jeremy there. I do bring a full extra set of all clothing, just by the off chance that something happens to a set, either, whatever, something could happen and an entire set of clothing could be.
You could be out and get caught in the rain or something.
That's the best case scenario for that for that extra set of clothing. But for me, I do take daily medication, so I'm a medicated person. Keeps me sane, and I have to make sure that I take enough of that to keep me through the weekend as well. So I usually take 2 or 3 extra pills to get me there, just on the off chance as well that something happens and I can't get back home to the rest of it, so I have an extra. But that kind of thing, I like to make sure that I mention that here, because I know I'm not the only one who's medicated. So if you are a fellow medicated personnel, make sure that you bring your medicine. Some of the other stuff I like to do, I like to make sure that I have enough chargers for everything.
That's important.
I have gone to a convention and only brought one charger for 3 devices that need charging. So it was a priority state thing. But yeah, it was.
If I can interject on that too.
Yeah.
Get one of those USB battery chargers, mm-hmm. Or the battery packs. Like, I got an Anker one that it wasn't too expensive, and I can charge my iPad twice on a single full charge of this thing.
Wow.
And so, I mean, it can do a phone like 4 or 5 times, and that thing is great. So I would recommend getting something like that, keeping it in your bag, so you're not always looking for where you can plug in your phone in the hallway.
Mm-hmm. I have a very small one that I got given at a convention one year, and it basically, on a full charge, will just keep it at that charge for a while. It's not great, but mm-hmm. But yeah, as far as the rest of the stuff, I don't tend to bring a lot of like extras. I'll bring all the toiletries and that kind of stuff, because cleanliness is next to godliness. Let's remember that. We don't need to harp on that. I think that's just kind of joked about now, but it is still fairly common. The smell at conventions does tend to run rampant. So remember, just don't get too carried away in the fun, to make sure you keep yourselves clean. but I do bring only one pair of shoes. I'm not too worried about my shoes. I only just wear sneakers. For me, as a heftier fellow, I will share an inner, like a behind the scenes secret. Yoshi found the secret of boxer briefs, or the.
Oh my God!
For me, it was bike shorts. As a larger fellow and the thighs rubbing together, I wear bike shorts underneath my other regular clothes, because you get those things chafing. Oh man, that is a bad day, no matter how much fun you have. So bike shorts saves my life. What about on a convention where, like TFCon, where you're spending the night at the hall or away close to the convention, and you're going to be spending some time with friends, and it's not just a one day thing, or you don't go home afterwards, after every day. Do you guys like to stay in the hotel and hang out with everybody there, or do you want to go out and experience the city around the hotel with some friends?
For the most part, I think I tend to stay around the hotel. I mean, most of the times the hotel has a restaurant. It's overpriced, but that's where a lot of the people are. There's always the parts parties, which I'm sure we'll get into. I now that I know more and more people that are at these conventions, I pretty much want to stick around unless there's a group that's like going out to dinner. Then I would go out. But I mean, for the most part, just chilling in the hotel and kind of sharing our experiences of the day, catching up, stuff like that.
I think it depends on where you're at, really. My routine in Seattle's conventions have been, I've kind of been lucky because every time they've done a Emerald City Con, there's some super movie playing right across the street at the Cineplex. So last year is where I got to see Black Panther with a bunch of people, and we met up. Josh came with us, and DC was a trip. I mean, like, I still say this, I'm not trying to be a dick, but that was by far my favorite Transformers convention. There was a cigar bar there. There was a theater. There were plenty of eats. It was wonderful to go walking. There was a convenience store right there. Like, it was just the perfect environment for that convention. But also, these conventions are big enough, and almost everybody's got Twitter, that it's easy enough to see what everybody's doing through social media, and it's easy enough to set up something really easily. I mean, you can go by yourself, and if you want to run a D&D game in your room, you can just post it on Twitter, and your door will be knocking. Like, this is getting something going is so easy, or finding out what's going is so easy nowadays, that I like to not sleep at these conventions, as you guys know. And if there's something going on, I like to partake in it, whatever that may be. So yeah, to each their own, and the possibilities are endless, and social media is a big key to making sure that those possibilities are endless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say, if you are hanging around in like the hotel bar, chances are some of the guests, like some of the voice actors and stuff, might show up at the bar, and you might get to interact with them there outside of, I mean, I'm sure there will be tons of people around, but outside of the normal convention panel, type of experience. So that's a lot of fun too.
Mm-hmm. Just don't ask them to sign anything there.
Yeah. Respect that, it's not the time for something like that.
While you guys were talking, I remembered, because I think you touched on it there, Jeremy, about forgetting to eat lunch, and then you mentioned the bar. Especially with TFCon coming up, the one of the best things that I think we've ever done is take TFCon up on their, or the hotel rather, take them up on their buffet breakfast in the morning. It can be a little expensive because it's the hotel, but it's a filling meal because yeah, you forget to eat lunch.
And also there's usually some like bananas or something you can stash in your bag and take
Yeah.
with you.
Exactly. But that's generally, if you're a person who gets wrapped up in your day and can forget to eat, that would be something that I would recommend doing. Just packing on the calories in the morning and letting it ride through the day if that's the type of person you are. Because it it can be a long day, but if you're not eating, maybe it's best to eat lots before the convention opens.
I put this fucking app on my phone that reminds me to drink water every 15 minutes, and it drives me insane, but I've noticed a huge improvement in my life. So that might be, I mean, yeah, you're going to be running to the bathroom constantly if you follow it as strictly as I do, but you should be. Like, that's normal.
Especially if, the conventions, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. Stay hydrated.
Yes.
Yeah. Dehydration can sneak up on you and knock you out.
What else?
Well, there's a good thing from Dogcates in the Discord chat here. Bring Ziploc bags if you're going to be buying small parts and things. I can't tell you how many like little guns and stuff that have ended up in like the bottom of my backpack, and I come across it months later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good idea. One of the things that I always do keep hearing when it comes to conventions, be it large or small, is when you enter the dealer room, make a lap, do a lap of the floor. And, if you walk into that dealer room and you see, oh shit, I'm looking for Masterpiece, or I'm looking for Action Robo, I'm looking for whatever, and you see it right there, first table, and the guy wants X number of dollars for it. Well, do a lap. And maybe a guy on the opposite side of the room has it for $15 or $20 less. And when you get there, you will get it for that. If not, if you circle back around, maybe it's still there. If it's gone, it's gone. Then you're lost out. It's unfortunate, but it happens. But you don't know until you look. Get a run in through the room, and then you could save yourself a lot of money. This has happened to me a couple times. A story from a couple years back. I wanted a complete, I can't remember what it was, a G1 figure. I think it was Sandstorm, and I bought a gun for him from one of the parts dealers. He wanted the gun is apparently very hard to find. I don't know why. It's just that's the only part that comes with that figure. But he charged me $40 for this gun. I'm like, son of a bitch. I wanted the part, so I bought it. There was a discount, whatever. I didn't pay full 40, but whatever. I ended up doing a lap of the tape of the room. I was going through and I saw a guy selling his own personal collection, a complete Sandstorm in there with the gun, $25. I'm such an idiot. And
I don't know if you should feel that way. At least, you have a different take on shit than I do, Daryl. Like, if I find something I want, like, I would totally not be pissed. The first booth I stopped at last year had it was literally the first booth, had the Devastator gift set instruction booklet.
Sure.
And had I found it at another booth for cheaper, it wouldn't have bothered me because I wanted that and I felt I paid a fair price for it. I wasn't, I make sure that I had that conversation in my head. Like, if you find this for $20 cheaper, are you going to be pissed? No, I'm not going to be. I mean, I had that argument to myself and I was okay with it.
Yeah. Thing is you probably, once you found it, you stopped looking.
Yeah,
right.
That's true. So I really did just give up. But.
Yeah, but you should also know what a fair price is. Do some searches on sold listings on eBay just for a ballpark idea. If I were to not get this at a convention and I was going to have to buy it online, what would I be expected to pay? and use that to determine, would paying X for this be worth it if I had to otherwise buy it online, pay shipping and all that.
But man, there's such an advantage to being at a convention because you can tangibly look and feel what you're gonna buy.
Yes.
I mean, I'm addicted to eBay as much as the next guy, and I can't tell you how many comics I've bought where the camera just doesn't show the blemish. It's the exact same book. They took a picture of the book. It just doesn't show the blemish that you can now see in person.
I get it. I understand completely.
It's two different ways to approach it.
Yeah.
You've got your way, I've got my way.
I get it. I get it completely, because I would much, when it comes to comics, I cannot buy them online unless they're brand spanking new. Even that, I have a hard time. But if they're unless I'm looking at them or holding them in my hand, I really don't want to have to buy them online. But I have bought toys online. But anything where it's boxed or it's supposed to be in a certain condition, I get really antsy about it. I want to hold it. I want to look at it. And that's why things like TFCon and going to these larger conventions like Fan Expo are really a boon for me and bad for my wallet, because it's a huge hit to them. But it's, I will go and I will look at these things physically and then I'll buy it at that point. But with regards to buying, a lot of these conventions will have exclusives and larger conventions like Emerald City, SDCC, Fan Expo. They all have their conventions. They're all made by the big companies, and they're advertised for months. You know what's coming out. It's going to be big. There's lots and lots of exclusives for these shows. You can and you can order them online sometimes afterwards, but
which defeats them being called an exclusive.
It does, kind of, yes.
Fucking pisses me off.
But with these smaller shows, even the Transformer-centric ones, there are exclusives as well. It's important to determine your budget on these, because sure, they'll take a big chunk of your budget. But what's in an exclusive is really the question here, is especially when it comes to these larger shows, the Emerald Cities or the Fan Expos. The exclusives, a lot of them can be comic book related, and I think that they really are just reprinting or kind of slapping a logo on a specific comic that's already been out. So take a look at those. Remember that sometimes an exclusive can explode in price. So if you really desire a specific exclusive, maybe you want to jump on them quickly, because a lot of them will go really fast, especially if a particular artist is on it, like J. Scott Campbell. If he does a particular cover for a convention, you're going to pretty much guarantee that thing's going to be gone right away.
I will say one thing that I used to do in the day of BotCon, when there was an official convention set, like you're limited to one generally, and those sets were pretty expensive. But when like my wife would come with me, she didn't care about it at all. I would buy a second set. Like we would buy two, and one would immediately go up on eBay, and that would usually, if it sold immediately, it would pay for the other set. And I would think even with these smaller ones where you get some exclusive figures, even if you don't really care about the figure, maybe think about picking it up and immediately flipping it. Because while the hype is up, you should be able to get more than you paid for it.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Yeah.
Today I learned Jeremy's the flipper, not Daryl.
Yeah. Who knew, eh? Also about the floor, when you're walking around buying stuff, something we throw around sometimes on the show, but it's worth mentioning here on the convention specific one. If you're buying it from a specific dealer, they're more apt to give you a discount if you're buying multiple items from them. So don't ask them to knock $10 off of a Masterpiece figure or an expensive action figure if you're only buying the one, right? If you grab 2, 3, 4 figures from them, then ask them to cut you a deal. If they're not willing to cut you a deal, say, okay, cool. Give me a minute to think about it, and I'll come back. And you leave. Because there's a guy just, the next booth over, he might have the exact same figures. Or if he doesn't, then the next booth over might. Then they're apt to really start thinking, maybe I'll do you a deal. Also, don't ask for a deal the moment the show opens. The doors open, walk up to the first table. Hey, I want a deal on this. No, don't do that. The last day of a convention, or as the show is closing up on the second last day, then you start asking for deals. Just it's timing, right? But know how to wheel and deal, right? I know you guys, both Yoshi and Jeremy, you guys aren't big wheeler and dealers, but do you guys have any tips for anybody when it comes to dealing at tables?
Yeah, well, I mean, I suck at haggling, but the one tip I can give is to be ready to walk away from whatever it is you want. If it's not the price you want and they aren't willing to make a deal, just be willing to put it down. Like you said, chances are there are many other booths that have the same figure.
I would say do a little recon before the convention. Like, if I end up wanting to buy a figure, like right now, kind of kicking myself for not getting MP Megatron. So before a convention, I will look at what that guy's going for on eBay, understand what the ballpark is, and I'll do a lap around the convention floor and see what all the prices are. And just know that if I'm serious about buying that figure, I'm going to be spending what I'm seeing on eBay for it, and I'll have budgeted for it. I'm not going to go in there blind. So do as much research as you can. And I think we've talked about this in the past, Daryl, where like, you'll get a figure, or you'll see that the box is damaged, and you can maybe get a couple of bucks off because the box that comes in is damaged or what have you. I have bought key issue comic books at a phenomenal discount because there's a tear on the back cover or an ad is clipped. And you just got to ask yourself, are you comfortable with that? And will that still make you happy to own that book? Because if it does, or that figure, you can save tons of money that way. These are just things to take into account.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. It's true. That's when it comes to comics like that, you've got to be willing to ask the person to open the comic, or ask them if they're willing to let you open the comic as well. So yeah, you've got to, if you're doing that, you're the type of person who already knows what to look for. But yeah, it's an important lesson to know. The ad clipping, I'm just learning about that right now, what years they're from. So yeah, I'm starting to get an education in that myself.
A lot of those, I didn't mean to limit this to a comic convention. I started with the Masterpiece Megatron figure, but a lot of these guys that are selling comics at conventions are not bad guys, but they're dealing in such a massive quantity of books. They can't possibly inspect every page of a book to make sure it is what they paid for it, what they bought. So it behooves you as a customer, if you're going to be spending, even $5 on a book, I'd like to open this and go through it. Or would you go through it for me? Let's just make sure this book is what it is and agree on it. There are very few vendors, but I have met them where I've gone for a key issue and they want nothing for it. And I look at them and first of all, I'm impressed. because they know something's wrong with it. So the first thing out of my mouth is what's wrong with it. So yeah, you know, what are you comfortable with? What do you want? I mean, some of these old books, you know, they're not getting cheaper. They're getting astronomical in price. And you know, you can save a lot of money if you don't mind a little bit of damage, especially if it presents itself very, very well.
Mm-hmm. Can anybody think of anything else they want to touch on here?
Sure, we should talk about the importance of making sure you bring enough physical cash with you. This was on our checklist, but Dogcade's also brought this up in the chat. Like hotels and the surrounding area have ATM machines, but one, it's a weekend, and two, it's a fucking convention. They're going to be empty. They're going to be empty before day one. Bring yourself enough money, hide it well, protect it well.
And don't dip into your food budget to buy a toy.
Right. Yes.
I would keep your food budget separate from your spending money.
Make friends, you know, especially if you're buying art or you're paying for a signature or something, you know, don't treat this like a trip to Walmart where you buy your boxer briefs and now you're leaving the store. Like, talk to them about the boxer briefs. Like, what kind of material did they use in making them? What, you know, get some time out of it and enjoy the convention. Enjoy, you know, talking to this artist you've admired forever, or talking to the writer you've admired forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of the people selling toys at these conventions, you know, can be the toy manufacturer or can be a direct seller, and you can talk to them about what the industry is like. Like, really immerse yourself in the hobby. You know, these guys love talking. You know, everybody loves talking. And if you have trouble talking to people, then get yourself a retail job for 6 months, because that'll fix you right away. Do you have anything to add to that, Daryl?
No, that was good. I was just thinking about the budgeting, actually, because budgeting is very important, and you touched on it earlier. But budgeting for food is very important. And I was just thinking that I haven't actually set a budget for this weekend coming up, and I have to do that.
They don't talk about this on convention websites. Are you driving to a convention? Are you going to have to pay to put your car in a parking garage? Call up the hotel and be like, are there any expenses I, as a newcomer to your city, should be aware of?
And I mean, for, you know, some of the hotels, like I believe the hotel where TFCon Canada is, I don't think parking is...
Nope, parking's free.
But in the Chicago ones, you're going to be paying.
Yes.
So, you know, just be aware and, you know, check the hotel website, call the hotel, ask, and you don't want to be surprised by any unexpected costs when you get there.
That's true. The other thing I wanted to touch on is people out of country. If you are coming to a convention that is not in your home country,
Charles.
yes, I highly suggest that you convert your money over, because you will get more for your money if you have the currency in the country's money, because some dealers may not have an up-to-date currency conversion on them.
Some say it's, you know, $15 American or Canadian, or, you know, $15 Canadian, $10 American, or something like that. But I would always recommend going to your bank ahead of time. Usually it's a few weeks ahead of time. Exchange your money, and that also helps in your budget, because that's the cash you got.
Yes. But your backup could be a credit card. Yeah. Credit cards work. They always give you the rate of the day kind of thing.
Make sure your credit card does work for international. Not all of them do.
Yep. Another thing that I would suggest is call your phone company, your mobile phone company, and let them know that you will be traveling abroad, and that your phone, because your phone may stop working once you cross the border.
Fuck you, AT&T.
Or your phone might suddenly jack up the rates. So yeah, I know whenever we got close to the border, I would turn off, like I would put all my phones in the airplane mode and just deal with Wi-Fi at the hotel. Mm-hmm. Unless I had, like, there was like this last time where it was a family vacation. So we had my wife's phone, work like we pay for the global plan. I think unless you're on T-Mobile, it's really painful. T-Mobile seems to do like world roaming for free.
So that's a good thing to know. For certain people, traveling to and from other countries is no big deal.
Make sure you have your passport.
Yeah, that's important. For some, they may need to make sure that they have health coverage in another country. Some people cannot travel to another country without it. So, or they get very paranoid if they don't have health coverage. So, presumably, we should all have health coverage if we travel to another country. And if you don't, you can always call up your healthcare provider and get coverage.
And please don't let us talking about traveling to other countries and the things you need to prepare for discourage you, especially TF Nation. TF Nation, if you invite us, we will happily address these things. You guys are doing the bulk of the work by paying for our plane ticket and our stay. So we're happy to address these little incidental things on our own.
Oh no, it's just the plane ticket. We told them we'd pay for the stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd cover our own stay. We just need to pay for the plane ticket over. It really is not that difficult. Everything that we've just mentioned is a few phone calls, right? Or emails, honestly. It can be done in a few emails. If you don't have a passport, that takes a little bit more work.
Yeah, in the U.S., generally it requires making an appointment, usually at the post office. There are some other places that might do it, but the post office, most places, but they usually require an appointment. I would get that months in advance.
But if you don't have a passport, you don't have a passport.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, those are important. If you are driving, say from the US to Canada or vice versa, know the rules of the road when you get across the border. 100 kilometers an hour is not 100 miles an hour.
That's just an inefficient use of fuel.
If you are rocketing past somebody on the highway and everyone seems like they're standing still, you are the one going too fast. So it's like, the speed limits in Canada, they're amazing. Everyone goes so fast here. No,
it's like the
you're
North
reading
American
the
Autobahn.
signs wrong.
Yeah, and it's what, roughly like 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's about 60. Yeah.
So I mean, it's your typical highway speeds, regardless of whether you're in the U.S. or Canada. Just pay attention if it's a kilometers or miles.
General rule of thumb is go with the flow of traffic.
Yeah.
Right. If traffic is all slowing down, or if you're passing everyone, slow down. Right. But it might, if you're going to be driving in another country for a good amount of time, it might be a good idea just to kind of peruse the old website, just to see if the rules are a little different, because we have some rules in Canada that are a little different, and I'm sure your rules in the US are a little different. So yeah, but no, it's just something to kind of think about. Yeah, I don't know. Anybody else got anything?
Jeremy brought up making sure you got snacks and water on your persons at all time. I think, and we talked about the virtues of bike shorts and boxer briefs. This has never been an issue for me, but I know a lot of people bitch about it. Make sure you got comfortable shoes. That's
why I mentioned sneakers.
There's not been a day after I've never woken up at a convention and had my legs not fucking killing me in the morning.
Yeah.
You gotta drink, you gotta stretch. Your adrenaline, no matter how slow the show is, your adrenaline is going to not make you realize how long you've been on your feet. You are going to hurt the next day. So I don't think it's avoidable. I think you can only minimalize it by those things: water, stretching, good shoes, comfortable clothes. That's super, super important. Let's see. This has been something I've experienced only in passing. I haven't ever been caught in this, but I've never thought to do it any other way. But if you're going to take pictures of cosplayers, if you're going to take pictures of artists or their work, ask permission first. A lot of these people, this is how they're making their living, and they're very protective of it. And there's nothing wrong. You're never doing a wrong thing by asking permission. If you're just doing it, then we got problems. So show some respect, ask permission, then everybody's cool with everything. And especially a cosplayer may want to see what you post of them too. They may want to give you some props on social media. So just be ready for that. There's nothing wrong with asking permission. Let's see. Line buddies. What do you guys think about having a line buddy?
It's a great idea.
I'm all in favor. The number of times my wife has gone to a convention with me and she has stood in line for voice actors and stuff while I'm off doing something else. I can't count how many times it's happened.
Yes. There's a lot of time spent waiting in lines, and usually on the convention floor, your phone's just not going to work. There's too many people fighting for cell reception.
Mm-hmm. The if you don't have a line, if you didn't bring somebody with you, then you make friends in the line.
Y'all are all stuck in the same situation, so you have something in common right away.
Yep. So you just start talking with the people around you. If you're going to be in a line and you're in that line for multiple hours, then you just start talking with the people around you. Oh, hey, you're here to see this person as well. What did you bring to get signed? Oh, I brought this. Oh, that's cool. I really wanted that one. Oh, did this is what I brought. Oh, that's really neat. Oh, that's cool. Now you guys are talking. Okay, cool. That's really neat. Hey, guess what? I gotta take a piss. Can you watch my stuff for a second? Okay, cool. You'd be okay if I hop back in line here? Okay, that's wicked. Awesome. Then now you got a line buddy. And if you pass your line buddy in the hall again while you're walking around, say hello. Hey, line buddy. Line buddies are great.
Remember when you let me piss, buddy? That was the time, man. Thank you.
This is good times.
You're one of the most important people in my life right now.
Something that I brought to one of the conventions last year and will be bringing again is a small little camping stool. It was a little 3-piece stool. It had a little strap on it that I could sling behind my back. And because I ended up having to wait in so many lines, this was for Fan Expo. I wouldn't bring it to TFCon just because the lines they're not bad at TFCon. But Fan Expo they were hours. I was waiting in line for hours and hours and hours. So I had this little camping stool, but it was tiny, like very short. And I was the talk of the lines that I was in. Look at this guy. This guy's a genius. He brought a fucking stool. I'm like, yeah.
He had to bring a stool. He brought 3 short boxes with him.
I was the man. Everyone loved me. So I suggest if you've got the access to something like that, apparently they're very cheap. The guy who loaned it to me, a coworker, said he bought it off of Amazon for like $15 or $20.
Yeah, so they're not that bad.
I may just buy myself one or just borrow his again. But so I suggest bringing one of those because that was brilliant and definitely saved my knees from a lot of hardships. Yeah, waiting in line just sucks. Something else I wanted to suggest, if you're going to one of the larger conventions, if you're planning on getting an autograph or something like that from a celebrity, celebrities are popular. They're more popular than anybody else there. Granted whether the comic book guys or anything like that, celebrities are usually the most popular people there. Try to get those people out of the way first. So if you can get into their lines right off the top, then you'll be much better for it.
Especially if it's a multi-day convention and you're there on the first day, because usually the Saturday is the busiest day.
Yeah. I spent three hours in line for Carrie Payton once, and that was just too much. So I think this year I'm planning on seeing a seeing if I can get one more celebrity's autograph. But this year I'm going directly to that area and going to go line up for them first. What we got next, Yoshi? Do you see anything else?
Panels.
Yeah, let's talk about the panels.
Oh, we're doing panels again. Yeah, that's right.
Well, first I want to start off with a TFCon Canada specific thing. They have a charity auction that first night.
Yes.
And people donate things. I mean, you can get really good deals there. But one of the things that they offer is early access into the dealer room.
Right.
Don't jump on that first one. The first one always goes really high in price. And yeah, this is a charity thing, but you will be overpaying because they have more than one of those.
Every time it happens.
This is a very important point, Jeremy. How many times has the second round of those things gone up and the person who bought them just is an audible fuck? It's just such a dick thing to do. Super dick thing to do.
They do this every single year.
I know, but every single year there are newbies.
They should announce that they have, however many, 4 of these, whatever many that they have. Just say, this is one of 4 of these, and maybe that would mean the last one gets bid up high instead of the first one, and I think that's a lot more fair. But anyway, just be aware of that, because that happens every single year. But you can get a lot of great deals in that charity auction. I would recommend attending that, but also recommend don't blow your own entire budget that first night.
And usually the best things happen right at the end when everything's over.
Yeah.
Because they'll just say, okay, now we're just going to do the, what's your best offer kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you see something up here,
grab like this, and this. What's your best offer?
And basically it's just kind of a free for all. And you go up up to the table and you snag something you've had your eye on the whole time. And you bring it up to the table and you'll be like, yeah, this thing here, this piece of shit, I don't even want it. I'll give you $2 for it. Well, seeing as it's a piece of shit.
That's how people end up with like Transformer Monopoly or something. Not that I know anything about that.
That's how you wheel and deal with these guys. But yeah, no, it's that's how I ended up with 2 complete pretenders last year.
Nice. So the regular panels, like all the, you have your voice actors, you have your comic guys, sometimes you have your toy guys. There's a good amount of Q&A in each one, but for the most part, people are talking, telling stories and stuff. I usually find those enjoyable, but after I've seen, the same people over and over, I tend to skip them. Mm-hmm. However, if you need a break, there are chairs in the room. So even if you're not particularly interested in the topic, you can sit in there, rest. Just don't be sitting in the back talking with your friends while people are trying to enjoy the panel. And if you do have a question, there's usually a facility to ask the question. I would say for the voice actors, don't be the one that asks them to do, voice A doing B, because they've done that every year. And if you want to hear it, go on YouTube, you can find it.
There's a lot of fun stuff that they always do there, but attending the panels it's a lot of fun. But these guys, they go around to so many conventions. They've figured out over the years what stories generally work, right? So they do the same stories, and for us, especially with the Transformers stuff, the amount of times that we've gone to Transformers centric conventions and we've seen the same people, you start to hear the same stories, like you said. And that's, first of all, the original Transformers show is over 30 years old now. So, we can't expect these guys to have new stories from a show that's 30 years old. But that's when the Q&A starts coming in, because somebody might have a really cool question.
Yeah.
So,
however, you do have people like David Mendenhall, who is the voice of Daniel in G1, it's his first ever time at a convention. That would be one I would be interested in seeing because his stories are all new. You know, you haven't heard from him. Or people like David Wise, who's written for the G1 cartoon. He doesn't come to a lot of conventions. So things like that. But if you get someone like Budiansky, I've seen Budiansky talk half a dozen times, or maybe like 3 or 4 times. I have seen most of the same thing in each one.
Mm-hmm.
So choose what panels you want to go to. Use that, you know, you budget your time just like you budget your money.
No, it's a good point.
There's a comment here by Sherlock Holmes about how it's always someone's first time at these panels. So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying don't go to the panels because they've always been there. If it's your first time, you know, seeing some of these guys, by all means go. But, you know, if it's your 7th or 8th time at these conventions with these same people, know going in that you've seen most of the stuff already. If you enjoy it, by all means, go. Take the opportunity to ask a question, but also don't ruin the experience for the first timers. And stay for the podcast panels if there are one. Those are always
the podcast panels are great. Do you have anything else on the list there, Yoshi?
Oh, I'm sure we're forgetting something, but I think our list is picked clean. Hone in on what's going to make it a really good experience for you and do your best to execute that. You know, for all of us, it's something different. And, you know, I get the most pleasure out of talking with the people who I bought art from. That's just the most fun for me. I will drag those conversations out as long as I can because I can't draw a straight line to save my life, and I am fascinated by people who can draw so many straight lines to create an Optimus Prime. I will just have that conversation forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Remember, it's an event. It's not a trip to Walmart. You know, really make those memories.
Right on. And Jeremy, do you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, like Yoshi said, figure out what would make the convention fun for you. I mean, for the most part, it's become more about seeing the same people that I've seen at previous conventions, you know, reconnecting, and that is more fun than, you know, buying toys and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
And we should probably also thank our Donatrions that helped us compile this list.
Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of this is from DJ Ronan, and also, as I mentioned, Sherlock Holmes, Chad Sherlock, and then Derek Bigsby. They all replied to our call for help in the Patreon page, and it was really helpful in compiling a list, kind of seeing what people wanted us to hit.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much, guys. Just to close out, when you're at these conventions, especially if it's your first time and you're starting in a community, everybody is in the same community, so just try not to be shy. You might see that there's a lot of people that seem to have known each other for a really long time, and it's possible that they have. But especially in the Transformers community, everyone is at these conventions for the same reason. If you walk up to a table that in the restaurant and the guys are there's guys and girls. I have never in my life seen more girls into Transformers, and it's fantastic. And that's a lot of thanks to Margaret Scott, Sarah Stone, Sarah Peter Durocher, but and James Roberts and the Lost Light More Than Meets the Eye books. But walking up to those tables where they're just sitting there talking about Transformers and they're playing with the toys messing around with the articulation and stuff on the thing, and you see something that you've wanted to talk about or ask a question about because you're interested in, do it. Walk up and ask the question, because that's what these 2 or 3 or 4 people are doing. Is they're just looking at this figure. They're messing around with it because they're interested in it too. And somebody at the table just happens to have it. Just these other 2 or 3 people just got there before you did and took a seat. So walk up, say, hey, my name's so-and-so. I'm blah, blah, blah on this blah, blah, blah forum. And, you know, maybe they heard of you, maybe they haven't. Who gives a shit? But go and talk to them and say, hey, that's such and such a figure. It just came out. I want to see the, does that thing do this? I thought it did. That's amazing. I'm really going to be looking for that thing when the show opens, you know. That's awesome. So, yeah, everyone's at these things for the same reason. If you're a shy person, an introvert, it's okay. A lot of us went to these things as introverts for the first time, and, you know, you start to know people. And like Jeremy said, the years as they go on, you start to see the same people. The next year you go, you might see the same people sitting there at a table again, talking about another toy. Hey, remember me? I talked to you last, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. I see you've got another one. What's this one? Okay, cool. So, you know, you start to make friends with these people. Your line buddies, you'll see every year. I still say hello to the line buddies I made the first year I was there.
Hey,
if I
remember
see
a few years ago when you let me pee? Thanks.
That's right. Hey, line buddies, how are you? But yeah, no, it's a really great community, and if you're a shy or introverted person, it's a very welcoming community. So don't feel too shy, and especially if you run into one of us at a convention, come up and say hello, please. We will be very happy to say hello back. But anyway, that's going to wrap this up. This is Declassified episode 11. I can't believe we're at 11 already. And this is going to go up for free for everybody to experience the greatness that is the Transmissions Declassified show. And this should hopefully be up before TFCon this year. But if not, who cares? We didn't really mention what year it is, so this could go up next year or the year after. But yeah, this has been great. I want to thank my fellow co-hosts here, Yoshi and Jeremy. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Word. Be sure to check us out at transmissionspodcast.com/Discord, where you can chat with us in real time for free on your phone or on your computer or on your tablet. It's really
while you're
cool.
waiting in line.
While you're waiting in line, we chat back, believe it or not. And then if you want to donate, you'll get access to some hidden secret super rooms where you can voice chat with us. Yeah, it's a nice community we have here on the podcast, and we can extend this family to people going to conventions. So I've tied it all in there for you.
And I forgot one more thing. If you're going to a convention,
too late.
You can go and buy our shirt. We have an awesome new Soundwave themed shirt that Mike designed, and it's up in our store. If you are a Donatreon of our podcast, you get a discount. There is a link on the Patreon site for that, and then otherwise we'll have the link on the website for the regular store, and you can buy it there. They look fantastic, and that is also a great way. If you see someone wearing a Transmission shirt at a show, say, hey, you're cool like me. You listen to Transmissions.
Awesome. All right.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Declassified is a production of the Transmissions Podcast Network. For more great shows, please visit transmissionspodcast.com.